Hey guys, this is Coach KP, and today I'm going to talk about how we really self-sabotage any of our progress by blaming ourselves. Okay, so in our personal development journey, and I have said this many times, is when we start to improve as a person, there's this tendency to hyper focus on what we are and are not able to accomplish in terms of where we are today compared to where we were yesterday. And as I've shared this before, any progress we make, especially in terms of changing our mindset, it kind of ebbs and flows, okay? Until something becomes second nature, we'll have to continue to iterate over and over and over our mistakes and make them a degree better until we get situated in a position where that particular problem is no longer a problem for us. So constant iteration, almost daily in some cases, is necessary for us to become free of some of the things that we are looking to free ourselves from, right? So that's true not only for us, and that's what we tend to forget because we get hyper focused on our own personal growth when we are starting out in this journey, and we can really be hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up for something that is happening or not happening. So then the question becomes, what do we do when we make mistakes, right? Do we just move on, and how do we move on? Or do we sit back and take it all in and internalize all of what has happened? Or how do we process it, basically? What's a healthy way of processing whatever's coming up for us, right? So that can be a question, and then we can ask ourselves on what to do next. So I have a hint around that. When we make a mistake, instead of blaming ourselves for making that mistake, let's take a step backwards and say, reflect on what happened, under what circumstances, and what can we do better, right? And honestly, when we set our intention, for example, if you set your intention to learning more about somebody that you've been working with, right? Because they've triggered you in the past, and you do realize now that getting triggered is not anything that they have done, but it's really a quality of us being who we are at that point, not being able to release that trigger, right? So once we've learned that and we interact with this person, many things can happen and we can get triggered again, right? Let's say we get triggered again and we get triggered over and over and over again. What do we do? What's the more evolved way of approaching this problem of being triggered over and over again? Is to realize that we have to get triggered over and over and over again until we can overcome this trigger using a healthy mechanism, and it does not happen overnight. So let's say the first time you get triggered, no change, right? Once we realize we're doing it, the first time we get triggered, after the realization that this is our trigger and we need to own it, we may get triggered very fast after a brief interaction. Then the next time, what we may be able to do is take a deep breath, and as we're engaging with this person, try to open our heart and try to open our minds a little bit more, so we allow what's coming from that person to us a little bit more than yesterday. Even if this situation is very challenging, we acknowledge that and we let a degree more in. What that does is it sets us up for success for the second time, and then we do the same thing the second time. Maybe we are able to then open ourselves up a degree more, right? So just an example, in that interpersonal conversation, what's going to end up happening is you're going to continually lessen the trigger as you take a deep breath in and you allow your heart to open to the realization that this is hard work, right? And this is something we tend to forget, is the work, personal development work, the work to accept ourselves is not an easy task, because this entire world is fixated on blaming. Whether they're blaming somebody else or they're blaming themselves, there is a lot of blaming, a lot of beating yourself up, a lot of feeling bad about what has and has not happened, and we tend to not be in acceptance of what is happening. So to be in acceptance of whatever is happening in that interaction, we have to be accepting of what is happening within us as well. And when we realize that it's okay for us to give things their own due course, and we are kind to ourselves, the process of improvement then becomes fun, right? At the end of the day, we cannot sustain something if it's not fun, if you're not coming from a happy place to do that work. Chances are you're either not going to do the work or going to get burnt out very soon. And that again allows me to bring up my point of having a tribe of people, having a group of people who you can share your situation with without the fear of judgment, right? So in order to not blame ourselves continually, in order to grow in this journey, we have to share our story with someone, right? So someone or a group of people that we can trust in an absolute way. So it's a process of getting away from that mindset that hasn't served us in a long time, right? We continually blame other people or continually blame ourselves. This doesn't go anywhere. We realize that we've been doing this, and we realize that the triggers are actually inside of us. And then what do? We continue to blame ourselves. That's not going to work. So we need to break out of that cycle. We need to be able to find a group of people that we can be vulnerable with and say to them that, hey man, or hey friend, I'm struggling with this problem and this doesn't seem to go away, right? And have them just listen to you, right? Because chances are we probably aren't in need of advice at that point. We already know what to do, right? Because we've done the heavy lifting. We've done the work of owning our emotions. It's just now about how do we make the response a second nature versus reacting like before. So that's what I'm here to say today, is let's be kind to ourselves. And once we really learn to be kind to ourselves in that moment of panic, in that moment of trigger, in that moment of, oh, why did I say this, right? What happens is the next interaction, you are softer to yourself, we are softer to ourselves, and we are able to extend that softness to others, because we cannot extend to anyone what we haven't given to ourselves, right? That is very important to understand, is we cannot give someone what we don't currently own, right? So that's what I'm here to say. Let's stop blaming ourselves in this journey, and let's start to embrace what it is, embrace who we are at that point in time, right? And then give ourselves a little bit more love than before. And even if that love is very difficult to come by at that point, let's just stay with it. At that instance, if we are not able to give ourselves that iota more love, then that may even be okay. Let's not beat ourselves up over that, right? Let's just sit with it. And then we can work towards giving ourselves that validation that, you know what, this was a difficult situation for me, right? We can read a lot of books and listen to a lot of people talk about how they overcame this and that, but their trajectory of life, their trajectory into personal development may look very different than ours, right? So there's no sense comparing our journey with anybody else's, okay? So all of the beautiful people that are watching this today, that's what I'm here to say. This is Coach KP. Peace.